Antoine Walker to talk Game 3 between the Lakers and Rockets and Rajon Rondo. Twan, Nick gives Rondo such a hard time. The guy finished 21-9. He's been nothing but great for this team. And while both Harden and Russ did have big games, it wasn't as big as LeBron's. 36 points, a bunch of highlights as the Lakers take a 2-1 series lead here. For the King, a milestone night, becoming the NBA's all-time leader in playoff wins with 162. That passes Derek Fisher on that list. All right, Antoine, we start with you. What'd you make of LeBron and the Lakers taking the lead for the first time in this series?
I thought it was an impressive win last night when you really think about how they had to win the game. LeBron was great the first half offensively. Was not great the second half, but defensively, he really had his impact on the game and really spearheaded their run. But the game was won, and I know, Nick, I heard you guys talking about it, but I don't know if it's playoff Rondo, but it's just good basketball player Rondo. He's a guy that can get it done at these moments and this time. Just why it was so important for him to get back. You know he was going to lose Avery Bradley, and not because he scored 21 last night, but the pace that he controls the game at really helps the Lakers. He gets the ball to the right people. He allows Rondo allows LeBron James to rest, 3-4 minutes at a time, and the offense still flows. He gets the ball to the right people. And when he makes three-point shots, we all know that's a bonus. Last night he had it going offensively, but more impressively, I thought, was the defense, the 9 assists, and then the leadership to get them in the right plays and make sure they're at the right pace. Because so many teams play Houston and try to play that style. But with Rondo, he keeps the game under control, and he's been great the last 2 games. And he's the real reason why they're up 2-1 in the series. But great performance by LeBron in the first half. I thought for LeBron not to have it go in the second half offensively and to make his impact on the defensive end kind of shows that's why he's the best player in the world. He separated himself a little bit because he can dominate on both ends of the floor.
Right. And he did it on a night where he found out he got snubbed again from an all-defensive team. How you can say there were 10 players in the league better on defense than LeBron this year is just mystifying to me. But, hey, somebody had to vote for Luka and Dame for those awards, I guess. But more importantly, let's talk about Rondo for a second. Because it is not just – on this show, I'm painted as the person who is highly critical of Rondo. But on this show, I'm the only one. But I am one of literally millions of folks who have watched every Laker game for the last 2 years and have said Rondo has been the worst guy on the team.
It's not called regular
which is what makes... Okay, Wild, I guess you're right.
But there's alliteration there.
It's what makes this so shocking to me, because it's one thing if a guy was great in the playoffs every single year of his career and you just knew he took regular seasons off. But Rondo had one great playoff moment in the last 7 years leading up until 3 days ago. And now Antoine's right. In back-to-back games, he was the difference. In Game 2, the Rockets hit 22 threes and lost because the Lakers got unexpected production from Rondo. Last night, the Rockets hit 40% of their threes. Russ was extraordinary. Harden was very good. And the Rockets lost because Rondo comes in and gives you 21 points on 11 shots. Like, to go from being Wilds, it's not that he's gone from being bad to, playable. He's gone from being bad to, in these 2 games, excellent. It's absolutely baffling to me. And so I got to give him credit. I don't know if he can continue at Wilds, but I got to give him credit for it. He's been great these 2 games.
If someone's nickname is Playoff Rondo and he shows up in the playoffs, it shouldn't be baffling at all. It should be exactly what you expect. It's like that, fix-it tape. It's like, wow, the fix-it tape fixed it. You're like, yeah. That's why we call it fix-it tape. Take your boat out now. We fixed it. We fixed the hole in it with some tape. Hey, Antoine, the question, you kind of you said something at the beginning of this segment that I thought was interesting. You're like, I don't know if it's playoff Rondo. I think it's just good basketball Rondo. Rondo himself told Mark Stein that he hates the nickname playoff Rondo because Rondo nickname is actually a negative in a way.
Well, you got to think like this. If you follow Rondo's career, which Nick probably hasn't followed him, he's a Kentucky guy, so he probably hadn't followed his career the way he's supposed to. Rondo's never been a great shooter in his whole career. One thing to knock on Rondo is that he can run a team. He's a great passer. He's an elite defender. The West always been his whole career. But you got to give him a lot of credit. Over his career, come playoff time, he's made big shots. And too, Nick, I mean, I don't like the fact you say he hasn't been good in 7 years. Let's go back to New Orleans with Anthony Davis. He played great in that playoff series. He was unbelievable in that playoff series.
Antoine,
you say he hasn't been good in 7 years.
and I'll kick it to you, Brandon. No. I said he's been good once in 7 years, and it was that series. It was that run with Anthony Davis when they swept the Blazers.
Okay.
But he was great there, but then so much of the other playoff stuff is when he was with your beloved Celtics, or previously in the NCAA tournament with your beloved Wildcats, or I assume at your family barbecues. I mean, I feel like we have Antoine on just to hammer me over the head the day after his beloved Wildcat and Celtic Rondo plays great. But Brandon, go ahead.
Brandon, it doesn't hurt that LeBron loves him, and LeBron likes that he's out there, and LeBron has confidence in him. I'm sure that goes a long way to part of Rondo's success, no?
100%. And Walk and Jenna, we talked about this earlier. When you look at Rondo, and then you look at the contrast and the guy on the other end, you look at Westbrook. The thing that defined this series, this game, and the big differentiator is that in those big moments, Rondo hits the shot and Westbrook does not. We know as players, and Walk, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we know as players, we know as like avid basketball fans and watchers, there comes a moment in the game where you're like, okay, it's time to separate. Whether that's the third quarter, that's the fourth quarter. Statistically, Westbrook, he played well. But then there was those moments where it's like, he missed that shot, or that was a bad pass, or that was a bad decision. And then on the other end of the court, you have Rondo. It's like, man, the game is tied up. We have almost 20-something lead changes, and he knocks down a three. He makes the great pass. He gets to the mid-range game and hit that shot. So, Walk, I don't know how you saw that, but I just thought it was interesting to see that dynamic between Westbrook and Rondo in those clutch moments.
Well, I can touch on it real quick.
And it's one of the reasons. Go ahead, Antoine. Go, Antoine. Go.
No, I can touch on it real quick. With Westbrook, you got to give him a lot of credit. He played terrible in Game 2. He responded like any superstar was supposed to do. He responded, and he played great in Game 3. The problem I think the difference is, I think when you look at Houston and obviously the Lakers, Rondo's job is to be a setup, get him good minutes off the bench, make a play or two. Yeah. He doesn't have the same role as Westbrook. Westbrook has to get 30 points to have a chance for them to win, especially now with Covington, Daniel House Jr. You don't know if those guys are going to come back. So he has to be great, and he responded to it really well with a solid performance. I don't think he was great late in the game last night, but they got two different roles. So I don't try to put that pressure on Rondo to have to deliver like Westbrook. So it's just two different roles, but I do understand what you're saying, Brandon, but two different roles, two different situations. If Rondo scores 4 points, the Lakers are not going to be upset.
And listen, the Rockets had to win one of these two games. As of 72 hours ago, the Rockets were 16-0 in games when they hit 40% of their threes. They've now lost 2 games in a row in that situation. We talked yesterday. Russ had one playoff game where he was above 50% from the field since Durant left the Thunder. He just had his second last night, and they lost. And we don't know what the status of Daniel House is, and we don't know what the status of Robert Covington is. The Rockets are now in a brutal, brutal spot. But Wilds, I want to say something to you, because you said something yesterday that it didn't bother me as a friend. It bothered me to my core as a sports observer. Because you brought up Kawhi Leonard in comparison to LeBron. And you're like, oh, basically, the reason America hates you, Nick, the reason America is so angry at you and mean to you on Twitter is because you hold Kawhi to this obscene standard and LeBron just gets a pass. And I've been thinking about it throughout the morning because LeBron James last night set the all-time record for postseason wins. In a few weeks, he's going to move into second on the all-time record for postseason assists. He already